This video is brought to you by Podshow. Podshow, delicious, premium Japanese snacks delivered to you straight from the land of the rising sun. Use the code BENTO10 at checkout to get 10% off your subscription. I'm excited. They got the box looks different today. Look at that.
I'm very excited.
We're celebrating the Moon Festival here today. Black sesame cookie.
Black sesame cookie. Black sesame is some of my favorite ice cream flavor. Like, every time I go to Mitsuba, I always ask them for a taste, even though I know what it tastes like, but it's free ice cream. Oh, wow.
That has a punch. It's kind of smoky a little bit, very aromatic.
Yeah, that's a tasty ass cookie.
Also, to wash down these delicious snacksu, we have some Hoshino Hojicha lattes.
That is very tasty. Holy crap.
Black strawberry.
Black strawberry. Ooh.
I love the freeze-dried strawberry, holy crap. And they infused the chocolate itself with like the strawberry flavor too, so it's not just the strawberry on the inside.
I need 100 more of those by tonight.
Once you go black strawberry, you never go back strawberry.
The depth of flavor on that is insane.
Strawberry and chocolate always goes well together.
It's true.
Setochi lemon mochi.
I do love my mochi, and I also love my citrus. Oh, it's so good. Good.
Oh, like you bite into it and it just gives you that lemon hit. Like a house freshly cleaned with pine sol.
Lemony fresh. That's a Space Jam reference.
Kurumi walnut mochi. I will say, this is a much subtler flavor.
That's a working man's mochi.
Very much so. If I were to make a suggestion, I would suggest eating this one before the lemon one.
Yeah.
A rich baked chocolate.
Oh, and it comes in a little tray. Look at that. Oh my God.
It's like your mouth is filled with brownie batter.
That was an explosion of flavor, you guys. You have no idea.
Oh my God. Next up, we got some tree cake.
Bumkuchen.
Break this wheel.
I got a little more than you. I am sorry. I'm not sorry at all.
fine.
Not even a little bit.
Takes a moment for that matcha flavor to develop.
But once it does, it's beautiful.
Ishigakijima chili oil chips. Ooh, and they got the little chili flakes inside the chip. I love spicy snacks. Spicy snacks are great.
This honestly has the flavor of pepper more than it has any of the heat, which is nice, you know? Pepper is a delicious vegetable.
Technically think peppers are fruits.
Well, I know something about spicy fruits.
Salted black bitter chocolate chinseko.
This is
Holy
the
shit.
darkest chocolate in the entire box, and it's salty too. They've combined this dark chocolate flavor with the natural sweetness of the cookie and a saltiness that brings it all together. Just one small little bite has filled my mouth.
I should not have put the whole thing in at once.
You poor bitch.
Do not eat the two chocolate things in this box back to back. That is a warning.
That combined with the cookie is the best combination so far. My God.
Next up, we have the Usagi no Shippo green tea bun. And filled with the delicious mochi goo.
You're right, it is. And a lot of snacks like these, they'll have like pictures of it and they'll show you it's packed full of whatever filling it has. And then you bite into it and it's like, oh, a little bit, just a little bit in there. Just enough to be like, okay, if we take it to court, we're gonna lose. No, this is packed full of mochi. I'm actually really surprised.
Oh yeah, the mochi flavor hits you. Like compared to the tree cake, this, boom. Potato, snack, corn, potage, flavor.
It's so corny.
What the? I have eaten corn that have tasted less like corn than this.
I know, right? They turn cream corn into a crispy cracker. It's amazing.
If anything with Podshow, the fact that like, they continue to surprise me to this day after over a year of sponsorship. Thank you, by the way. It's crazy to me that we can still find snacks that are like, how?
What?
Where?
Japan.
Hi.
Hi. How are you?
All right.
Oh, and well, that was another delicious Podshow, straight from Podshow. And this is still one of my favorite sponsorships.
And you can get your own delicious Podshow from Podshow.com. And if you use the code BENTO10 at checkout, you get 10% off your subscription. So check it out. Thank you so much, and enjoy the video to come. Hello and welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet and holders of 2 of the 10 rings. I'm your host, the Kung Fu Master, Shang-Chi. And here is my wisecracking sidekick, Scott Quafina.
Scott Quafina?
Going with it.
Damn, fuck yeah. Okay, I'll take it.
Taking
I'm
it, going
absolutely
with it.
okay with that. By the way, I have 3 rings, motherfucker.
You got 3, but they aren't the.
Oh,
They're one of.
how many dudes do I gotta marry?
I don't know.
Ugh. So hey,
I lost mine. Don't tell anybody. It's out there though.
but yeah, it's a very Marvel-heavy week this time.
It's been a very Marvel-heavy show, let's be honest. It's been a very Marvel-heavy decade.
Yeah, I know. It is kind of weird that a lot of the Talkcast pod shows end up like being about stuff like this. I mean, we love to talk about a lot of things, but like
It's what's out there, and it's like the kind of stuff that we want to go see. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's always in like the public
culture,
discourse.
zeitgeist, yeah.
Exactly. So it's
we gotta,
hard not to.
We gotta give the people what they want.
Gotta give the people what they want, except for the one thing that we made but you know, there's reasons and shit. But anyway, we're here to talk about Shang-Chi and What If. But before we get to that, we got a little segment here that I like to call the rundown. First things first, if you are in the Northeast United States area around Hartford, Connecticut, we are going to be at ConnectiCon this weekend, upcoming. Got 3 panels, 1 each day, and we'll be at our booth like a crap ton. I think they have us scheduled, and it's gonna be a good time. Looking forward to it.
Yep,
Looking
you can
forward
find
to
us.
meeting people.
Yeah, our booth is going to be in the Celeb Hall, which is really nice because that means like we're going to be in that one place where people will be looking for us.
There we go.
Yeah, with the rest of the celebrities.
Yeah.
It's a joke because no.
No, not even. We did just get back from San Japan, which was a wonderful time. Big thank you to all the attendees that showed up, all the people that made us feel loved, and all the wonderful, wonderful people who threw that convention. Just a wonderful time every year. If you're in the San Antonio, Texas area, highly recommended any chance you get a chance to go.
Yeah, honestly, it was without a doubt one of the better run conventions that we've been to in a long time. I'm really glad the first convention that we went back to was one that just went no problems, no hiccups,
Crazy,
just so smooth.
considering how much rust there must have been after like having to skip a year.
I mean, there was plenty of rust on me. I'll tell you what, just getting back into the game of things. Even my hand had kind of lost like trying to sign stuff. I'm like, wait, how did I do this before?
A lot of it's still like motor memory for me. It was like, yeah. Speaking of autographs, somebody messaged me on Twitter the other day. They bought a Funko Pop on eBay that was signed by me, and they were like, hey, can I get this confirmed? Like, is this actually your signature? And it was just like a Vegeta. I did the I am the hype with the speech bubble thing, and I'm like, yep, that's me. It's like, awesome. I didn't ask how much they paid, but I really want to know.
$500.
I want to know if they paid less than what that Funko Pop was originally worth. I believe it 100%, but I need to know. Other than that, the only other thing I can think of that came out recently that I've played, I'm not sure if you've gotten to try it out yet.
I want to so badly. And
Psychonauts 2.
Psychonauts 2 looks so good, and everyone says that it's so good, and I'm so happy because Psychonauts 1 was one of my favorite fucking games, and I was really, really nervous about Psychonauts 2 because it's been so long, and to hear that it's good warms my heart, but it also makes me frustrated because I'm too busy to play.
It does exactly what Psychonauts does well. It gives you these very imaginative levels where you're jumping into different people's psyches. Like one of the levels kind of turns into like Super Monkey Ball or Marble Madness for a bit, and it's kind of fun. It's pretty crazy, and
it's actually kind of cool to hear that they change up the gameplay style a lot.
They do a bit. Not as much as like Rayman does in certain situations, but it is still very, very strong showing. Probably the best level in the game. Was hinted at E3, but it's the level where Jack Black shows up as the Mode of Light, and it just gets nuts.
I haven't seen anything about the game, so that's actually the first time I've even heard of that.
That's as much as I will say about it, but it is probably the coolest level in the game, and if you could take some mood enhancers beforehand, I would recommend it.
Ah, gotcha. Riddle.
Yeah, sure. That one too. It's a very fun level. Very fun for everybody out there. Good game. Good, strong game. But yeah, anybody in the Connecticut area, pop on in. We're going to be showing off a preview of Hitful 3 at our panels.
Yeah.
Which is looking like it's going to be coming out here early to mid-October, I think, by the pace it's working through.
Yeah. It's going to be an incredibly long episode, so yeah, sorry this one has taken so long.
Very action heavy.
Yes, very action heavy. It's our first episode that I feel like actually has action scenes, which is really cool.
We got Devil Artemis, who's been animating for Death Battle, so we're in good hands on that front.
Yes, I know that we've got somebody who's got a lot of experience. He's only gotten more experience since we started working
Devil
with him.
Artemis is like, from where he started by just doing his own little riffs on the Cell versus things, to where he's at now, insane, incredible. I'm so proud of the guy.
Yeah, no, he's Devil Artemis. We're lucky to be working with him. He's incredibly talented. So.
Mm-hmm. Strong work from a very strong gentleman.
Yep.
But with that, I think we're going to work our way into talking about Shang-Chi here. We'll talk about Shang-Chi first, and then we'll talk about What If. For those watching on the archives, there will be little time codes down there so you can click through. If you don't want spoilers for one but are okay with spoilers for the other, feel free to swip and swap however you might, because it's going to be hard to talk about these without going into spoilers. Shang-Chi we can start without spoilers, just kind of giving our general opinion.
But I feel like for What If, you kind of just have to go right into it.
Yeah, just conceptually.
Yeah. And sorry for all of you guys who are in the chat right now who haven't seen Shang-Chi and have seen What If. Oh well. I'm sorry.
Yeah, very, very sorry on that front. But Shang-Chi, we actually went out to a movie theater and saw it last night. I hate multiplexes, and the quarantine has only made it worse.
Look, I wouldn't mind so much if there weren't the whole thing going on in the world right now. It wouldn't bother me. Just having to sit there wearing my mask, trying to make sure that there's nobody around me is a fucking...
There was a dude next to you that was like snoring.
He fell asleep. He fell asleep and was snoring, and I kind of wanted to nudge him awake, but then I just didn't want to deal with the fact that this motherfucker also was not wearing a mask, so I felt like he was the kind of motherfucker that if I woke him up for sleeping during a movie and snoring, would have given me shit. Jeez. So I wasn't gonna bother with that. I just had to deal with that during the emotional, like, climax of the film.
That, and I don't know what it is about AMC, like all the big, Cineplex companies in particular, but they're like a half an hour or 45 minutes of trailers.
Oh yeah, the movie started at 7:30.
7:30, but it started at like 8 or like 8:10.
It was 20 minutes of this shit. 20 minutes of trailers, and and then of course not only do you have the trailers, but then you have like, oh, by the way, Coca-Cola and the Dolby Cinema thing.
Thank you for joining AMC Stubbs McDubs rewards.
Boom.
Yeah, I miss the Alamo Drafthouse. I can't wait till they're back and open at 100%. I understand why they're starting this slow rollout. I don't want them to bankrupt themselves because they are my favorite theater chain, but right now they're only open on weekends, and that was not a time where we could have gone.
No, yeah.
But anyway, that preamble aside, Shang-Chi, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
It's good.
Strong.
It is, for me, it is generally a more solid action film than Black Widow was.
That's the general consensus I've been getting.
Yeah. I liked both. I actually liked Black Widow for the most part. I feel like it had problems, but there were a lot of things that I took away that were really positive from it. But overall, I do think Shang-Chi was a stronger film.
Yeah.
And I'm only comparing the two right now because they're the first MCU films
post
Endgame.
Post first lockdown too. Well, we had Far From Home.
Yeah. Spider-Man was really the first out of them. But as Spider-Man had a couple of had a film leading into it, I feel like for me, really, Black Widow and Shang-Chi are the first real.
Even though Black Widow takes place after Civil War.
Even though it totally does. That being said, Shang-Chi, I really do gotta emphasize, by the way, it is an incredible action film.
Yes, the first action set piece you get with Shang-Chi himself is probably one of the best action scenes I've seen all year. I've heard a great thing about what is it? Nobody, the Bob Odenkirk movie, but that bus fight scene, crazy, just out of nowhere, and I was like, the fact that we got some pretty decent wuxia was great.
Yeah, I was actually really surprised because I remember initially they showed the first third of the bus fight scene. And there was a part of me that was a little bit worried. I'm like, oh, okay, so that was the like whole fight scene, right? No, they only showed like the first third of it, and the last 2/3 are insane. Like,
yeah,
in terms of an action set piece, phenomenal shit. I was blown away.
It was great, like the way they worked with the camera, like sometimes it'd be outside the bus and you're still tracking the movement. And this is very important for any aspiring action directors out there. Let the movements be seen.
Yeah.
Because they're like one of the biggest problems that we found with a lot of Marvel action movies is this like cut.
In modern action films in general, might I add.
Yeah, but specifically in some of like the later Marvel movies, like cut. Like you'll get 5 cuts in the span of like 4 seconds in some cases.
It reminds me actually of when I was watching the making of for an episode of Game of Thrones. It was the one where oh god, what's her name? The younger Stark sister. Arya is training, and she learns that move where she
catches the dagger
and then catches the dagger and moves it to her other hand. I was watching the making of, and they showed the fight, and I'm like, this is fucking badass.
And then you see the actual
episode. And they cut to her. Yeah, and they cut to her, like her dropping the knife, and then her grabbing it. And I'm like, that is way less fucking cool than watching her actually do the goddamn thing. Mm-hmm. Let me see the really cool movements as they're happening. Because when you cut them, it makes me feel like I'm not actually witnessing the motion. I'm witnessing the way the camera wants to catch
movie magic.
No, fuck that. Show the actual fucking fight scene. And this movie...
It's what made Winter Soldier so good, is they
by the way, Winter Soldier does it better than the other Marvel films,
yes,
but it still has that problem.
Guilty at times, yeah.
Yeah. I'm so happy that this film knew, like whoever the director was, whoever the choreographer was, knew that they needed to show the actual fucking fight.
This is where you kind of run into, your lead is all about knowing martial arts and like that. Basically, his power is being able to channel Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, wire fu shit, which is cool. I love that as a superpower. So if you're going to use that as your power, you need to use that as your focus. Like that is how you have to film around this. You need to film it in a very visually pleasant way of showing off martial arts. So you have to know the genre. Do you have a favorite kung fu movie or a favorite martial arts movie?
Oh, that's actually kind of hard for me to pin down, especially because a lot of my favorite kung fu, I'm gonna have to go with The Raid for right now, just because
it's a very good one.
Over the last couple of years, that's kind of taken the place of when I think of a really badass kung fu action film. Although technically it isn't kung fu.
That's why I said martial arts.
Yeah.
It's the same flavor.
Yeah. The Raid is pretty high up there. I haven't seen The Raid 2. I really want to though.
It is very good. It is a lot longer. It's a bit more spread out, but it does have some real kick-ass scenes.
Honestly, one of my favorite action sequences in the entirety of Shang-Chi is actually in the first half. And it's during the scene where they're fighting on the rafters. Mm-hmm. And Awkwafina's character is falling. And so he does this crazy movement to get around the rafters, dodging dudes. And it's this one long take. And it's so fucking cool. I was so happy. There are no cuts as he's making his way out to her as you see her falling. And it's sick.
Yeah,
it is sick.
They were able to blend the CGI there very well.
That is kind of one of the things that ultimately, because unfortunately it's a Marvel film, so a lot of the things that they do aren't going to be so practical, and there are a lot
especially near the end.
Yeah, especially near the end, but we'll get into that. They spliced in a lot of the good old Marvel movie magic, and
it's why the scene was at night, and it's why all of the enemies were wearing Foot Clan robes.
Yeah, and that is sort of frustrating for me because it is so easy to see when it's CG. It is so easy to tell when everything happening is not actually there.
Even though technology is getting better, there's still that uncanny valley. But you know what? It's not something that takes you away from the movie, and that's the important part.
Yeah, for me, a part of it does really come down to, as long as the people in the scene are still actually them, I can generally be okay with it. Although that also makes Spider-Man a little bit more difficult because Spider-Man's entire thing is these superhuman movements.
Yeah, it's not like the end of Black Panther where it was definitely visually distracting, where you know that when Killmonger and T'Challa were fighting, it was
that PS3 fight scene. Yeah.
It reminded me of Blade 2. Do you remember that opening sequence in Blade 2 where Blade's fighting the ninjas in the brightest light impossible. It's just...
Yeah, and by the way, unfortunately, that was actually due to a scheduling thing.
It was a scheduling thing, also a technological thing.
Nope. Entirely a schedule thing. I mean, you could say technologically, but if we had the tech, then it wouldn't have been a scheduling thing.
It's just very noticeable in that movie in particular, especially when, because I mean, it's Guillermo del Toro, and he's using a lot of practical effects.
I meant in Black Panther.
Oh, I'm talking about Blade.
Yeah, no. I'm saying in Black Panther, the reason that happened was because of a scheduling problem.
Okay, there we go. That was the miscommunication.
But, yeah, but in this film, the CG's good. It actually kind of bothered me, though. There were some shots where I'm like, you guys had a lot of time to finish this film. I know you did. And there are still some shots, and I'm like, it did not need to look like this.
Nothing ever truly took me as like, what's that? So
funny enough, it was just kind of early on in the movie. Remember that scene where the main villain's car crashes and falls off the edge? That looks like ass.
It looked a little fun. Like, that scene actually kind of made me laugh, like, inwardly, because he's like diving out of the car, like leaving his minions just. I was like, later, fuckers.
Well, yeah, no.
He just dusts himself off, like.
Yeah, no. He's like, I'm good. I'm fine. Whatever.
How did you feel about him as a villain? Well, villain.
I think villain.
Antagonist, I think, is more appropriate.
I think villain works. The guy ran a shitty organization where he probably killed a lot of innocent people. Absolutely a villain.
Hard to say if they were innocent, honestly.
Again, I mean, I'm gonna go with villain.
That's fair.
But he had a lot of empathetic motivation, and not in the kind of like really easy to mock sort of way, but he actually kind of like found a life for himself, found a family for himself, really wanted to get out of that shit, and then unfortunately
they pull me back in.
Yeah, and I will say, the scene where they show the wife die.
Spoilers already.
Well, I mean, it's given away in the beginning of the film that she's dead. It's not a big deal. That scene needed to be way fucking earlier. I mean, I'm sorry, but the fact that they saved it till the end there really...
I disagree, and the reason I think that's a spoiler is, for a majority of the movie, they say she's gone. She's gone. They never said dead early on until they showed that scene.
I guess.
And then there was that drop where the dad's like, I know where she is. And then you see that scene, it's like, no, dude, she dead.
I don't think it's. I think it's heavily implied.
I agree with you that I think it's heavily implied. I'm just saying the verbiage.
Okay, but yeah, like I still think that needed to be early.
Maybe
because the fact that they saved it till that late, and also like that part of the movie is such a slog to get through, if only because everything is going so fast, so hard, so big, and then boom, you hit that one section of the movie, and it just slows to a fucking halt. And I'm like, okay, this is still interesting, and I still care, but Jesus!
You did hit right there on probably my biggest critique in the movie, and that it is probably about a half an hour too long. It is very, very long, and there are parts that I felt like could have been trimmed down a bit. I don't think it would have made it a lesser movie for trimming some of the pieces out of there and then dropping a director's cut later.
It's hard for me to say whether or not it would have actually made the movie, like, I don't personally feel like the movie was too long. I felt like it was paced poorly. Like I said, the reason that last part feels like the way that it does is because you have this long, very slow section of the movie where you get a lot of information, but not a lot of actions actually happen, and then suddenly it's a sprint to the finish with a billion things happening.
Yeah, but I think this is it might be the second longest Marvel movie next to Endgame. It is very long, like maybe Infinity War as well, but it is very long for an origin story. And the reason is the way they tell it, because like they tell the origin story by like intersplicing the story, not even in chronological order. They just kind of splice it throughout the events that are going on, which I think is fine. I like the way they did it. I like how the narrative was wove. It just, like you said, the pacing of it, for me, that translated to it being probably a little too long.
I will also say, Awkwafina, I'm really, really glad I like her in this film. Because when I heard that Awkwafina was going to be in this, I feel like one thing that Hollywood does with... Okay, not to get too political, but with when it comes to movies where you have it's this is an Asian.
They promoted it as like this is the first Marvel movie led by an Asian cast.
And so we made sure to put one of the biggest faces in Asian comedy, Awkwafina, in the movie.
Also a massive rising star in terms of leading Asian American males.
And it always kind of bothers me because it's like, oh, good, you made sure to find that one actress that's been in almost every single big American Asian film in the last 10 years. You made sure to give her a role.
Because she's damn good.
I mean, no, Awkwafina's fantastic, especially in this film where I feel like she tones back a lot of the more obnoxious stuff that sometimes they give her characters. Here, she feels actually genuinely funny, but also relatable.
It felt like they let her improv a lot.
They might have. There might have been some improv, but she was just in this movie, I feel like her character is like, also, I don't know if they were hinting at a romantic thing, but it feels like they were trying to be more, they're friends. They're actually just friends.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing the they are friends angle, and for a lot of very good reasons. I mean, he was hiding a huge chunk of his past from her, so like there's no way in his mind that anything like that could work, and they are just genuinely very good friends, and it shows throughout.
Yeah.
There's obviously some love there, but it is not romantic love.
Yeah, and I really dig that. I appreciated that because on one hand, having Awkwafina be his love interest would have actually been sort of mold breaking all on its own, because Awkwafina is not this traditionally beautiful woman. Not to say that she's unattractive.
I thought she was pretty.
No, she is. But look at the way she dresses. Like the way that she dresses, the way that she presents herself throughout the film. She's not trying.
She's quirky.
Yeah, she's quirkier. She's not trying to be like the Hollywood perception of a beautiful woman. She's actually trying to act and look more normal than a lot of them.
And yeah, that really works.
Yeah, which I know kind of comes off a little shitty for me to say as a cis white dude trying to critique this woman on her looks, but we know what Hollywood's perception of beauty is, and she's just genuinely not trying to match that.
You're also gay.
I am also gay. Like, I remember the first time they're sitting next to each other, and he's like supposed to be this normal dude. Like, he just parks cars for a living, and his traps are like, boom, up to fucking here.
The first scene you get with him as an adult is just massive jack push-ups.
Yes, and it's like this guy is like, oh, I'm trying to look unassuming, but it's like, you're huge, bro.
And you get that scene on the bus where it's like, what, does he look like a fighter to you? I'm like, yeah, a little bit. Like, I think he could hold his own.
A wee bit, yeah.
And then he does more than that.
Yeah. But it's I don't know. Ultimately, Awkwafina in this film, fucking great. I'm really glad they didn't just make her like laughs, funny.
They didn't Melissa McCarthy her. They didn't.
Oh yeah, you know what? They didn't.
Yeah.
No, she genuinely just feels like a very. And I actually really liked her. I empathized with her throughout the film. I'm like, I could really dig on this character. Then there was his sister, who is definitely like kind of almost the opposite in terms of like very emotionally distant, very cold-blooded.
For a good reason.
But I like her. She's still really cool. Like, I also had no idea she was gonna play this big of a part in the movie.
Yeah, I didn't think there was like anybody in the cast that I'm like, oh, that was kind of weird. Except for like Barrett Sword Arm guy. He was kind of weird.
Okay, yeah. We've got Barrett at home. Sword Arm guy is like, yeah, a little bit. He's less. I just remember when he showed up, and it's like, oh hey, look, it's White Barrett. What's up, buddy?
Dude's jacked though. Like,
Guy's huge. Guy's giant.
It's your type, I think. Just.
I mean.
Yeah, he's woo.
I mean,
big man.
Yeah.
He eats his beef.
Yes. I will say so. There is one character that is a huge spoiler, which we'll have to get into.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And honestly, I feel like we've spoken a lot here. It's a good movie. I recommend it if you can give it a shot.
I didn't say this though. The villain's great.
I do like.
Yeah, I do want to say I actually really liked the villain. I liked that throughout the entire thing, all the way into the end. He just rides that line of being a guy that you feel really bad for, but it's also just kind of like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah. He's very good, very strong. I loved his performance too. Like, he just strong throughout. The opening scene we get with him is basically like, he found the rings and he became a general from Dynasty Warriors. That's his power.
Yep, that's exactly it. He also looks pretty sick. Mm-hmm. Like, I was like, oh damn, this motherfucker's gonna wipe out an entire army.
Pretty much.
I like the fact that he goes in there and he's just wiping the floor, and then the soldiers come in and I'm like, why? Why even bother?
I mean, he'll go in there and he'll take the place, but then like.
Yeah, no, he's going straight to the boss. He's skipping all the other dudes. He's like, no,
he's the guy that pursues Lu Bu.
Yes, yeah, he goes straight for Lu Bu. He's not putting up with the rest of this shit. No, he is Lu Bu.
Probably, like it's crazy. But yeah, from here I think we'll jump into spoiler territory because it's very, very difficult to talk about some of the other parts of this movie without getting into that. So if you haven't seen Shang-Chi, recommend it. Strong. It felt like, quote unquote back to normal Marvel in the best sort of way. Yeah. As opposed to, from what I understand of Black Widow, where it's just like, okay, this is.
Did you see Black Widow?
I did not. Oh. I still haven't.
Oh, okay, all right. I can sort of recommend it because here's the thing. Unless you're
Are you talking about Black Widow?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it to be free on Disney Plus.
Okay.
I just don't feel like spending money on it.
I get you. For you, it might be a on the plane sort of movie.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely say that this is more of a return to form. I definitely like the fact that this film definitely has pulls from the rest of the MCU, but it genuinely never feels
it is its own thing, though.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it still can stand on its own as its own movie, which meant a lot to me because this is not only is this an origin story, but also Shang-Chi is a character that just has been so mishandled by his own comics that it's nice that his movie is so solid.
Yeah. So, yeah, definitely go check it out if you enjoy the Marvel Universe, because, I mean, it is kind of disconnected from a lot of the stuff that happens around. They reference some things, and you do meet some characters that have appeared in other movies in a lot of very fun ways, which we're going to talk about shortly. Yeah. So here's the spoiler cut now. So, the first thing that we say, like when he travels to China to try to find his sister, because apparently his dad really needs those pendants that their moms gave them, the little pendant MacGuffins. We're not entirely sure why at this point, but apparently his sister runs a underground, well, I guess above ground, but a black market fight club. And we see Wong fighting the Abomination.
So was that the Abomination?
According to social media and like by all comic like looks of him, yeah.
Okay, because I haven't seen the original Hulk movie.
Really?
No, I never saw the Edward Norton Hulk movie.
It's honestly, of Phase 1, it's one of my favorites. It's really slept on.
Okay, all right. I should watch it someday. I just never got around to it.
It's a good one. But I guess Wong and the Abomination are like he must break him out of a like secure facility somewhere, and they seem friendly with each other. So it's so bizarre.
Yeah, I think the thing that really threw me off was that he's got the
the head frill.
Yeah, the head fins. I'm gonna sound like such an idiot. Is Savage Dragon? Like, that sounds like, I don't know, that reminds me of somebody from the MCU, and I'm sure if chat were here, everyone would be screaming at me, telling me who it is. But I can't remember. I don't know. If that is the Abomination, that's the Abomination. If it's not, I think it is supposed to be another pull from the MCU, but I don't know who.
Well, there's another character that I thought was a pull, and still might be. The dude with the mask who did a lot of Shang-Chi's training and, who kind of showed himself off to be kind of a mid-boss throughout the movie. Yeah. I was looking at the guy, I'm like, oh, is that Lord Deathstrike? Because that's kind of how Deathstrike is portrayed. Like, not with the whole, shinobi getup, but that mask is very iconic for his character. Normally he's like wearing a business suit, kind of like Agent 47, just like master of all arms, master of martial arts, one of the deadliest men in the world. That's kind of his gimmick. So I'm like, oh, interesting. They got Lord Deathstrike in this. Okay, so they're setting up for him. And he, like, near the end of the movie, gets immediately jobbed out by these soul-sucking dragon monsters. I'm like, okay. Interesting.
I want to say outright, by the way, that whole section of the movie is my least favorite part.
The ending?
Yeah.
It's the part where I felt like, okay, yeah, you just tagged on another plot to this movie that was already 2 hours long.
Yeah, I gotta say, in a movie that had spent most of its time without a kaiju battle, the fact that they were able to fit that kaiju battle in the end, I think was actually more of a detriment to the overall story and tone and pace of the movie.
It reminded me very strongly of, like, there was this movie that came out, like, sometime between 2008 and 2012 called D-Wars.
Yeah.
Which, just this awful CGI dragon fight movie. I'm just like, this is reminding me of this. I mean, it looked better. It looked a lot better.
Right.
But there was just so much stuff going on that I'm like, I'm having a hard time getting really invested here because I'm not sure what the scale of anything's power is.
The scale.
Because dragon scales were the way they were able to fight these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going on. But it looked really cool.
It looked really fucking badass. But the problem I ultimately found was, you had this huge conflict that was happening between these characters, but then they set up for, like, if he breaks that gate, out will come the Great Destroyer, and it's like, okay, I mean, I felt like the stakes were already...
They were setting it up like the Great Destroyer, something we were never able to kill, but with the help of our great protector, our mighty dragon, we were able to imprison it. Nobody was able to kill it, ever. And then they just were.
Well, okay, to be fair, those, the 10 rings are incredibly powerful.
Yeah, because, they talk about it at the end, the mid-credit scene where it's like, we don't know what the hell these things are. They aren't any material we've ever seen. They're not mentioned in any of these Kamar-Taj lore books. Captain Marvel was there, and she didn't know either, I guess. So, yeah, they were just...
Also, once again, I'm sorry, am I wrong in thinking that Fin Fang Foom is MCU?
It is.
Okay.
Fin Fang Foom is MCU, was heavily tied to the Mandarin.
Yeah, I am actually really curious if that was supposed to represent, obviously not by name, because both good guy dragon and bad guy dragon don't exactly have, like, proper names.
Good guy dragon they just refer to as Shenlong, which...
Or they call him the Great Defender.
They call him Great Protector in the subtitles. I just kept hearing Shenlong, so...
Yeah, which is just Dragon God.
Dragon God, Great Dragon, something like that. So maybe that's just how they translated in the subtitles. I don't speak Cantonese or Mandarin, so...
Yeah. All I know is that it's kind of like... I'm just kind of curious if that was, like, their pull. Because, yeah, as far as I know, Fin Fang Foom is actually very directly related to the Mandarin. And, I mean, this is a movie about the Mandarin, which, okay, let's talk about the Mandarin. Because I didn't know this was going to happen. And it was a pretty fun pull. So for the first 5 minutes.
Back in, like, 2013 or 2014, they dropped a short film about the Mandarin getting interviewed in prison and getting taken by the organization The Ten Rings.
Yeah.
So, and just recently on Disney Plus, they started featuring that in the top banner. So I'm like, I didn't actually realize this came out years ago. So when I was like, oh cool, they made a short movie to lead into Shang-Chi. No, it was something they made a long time ago, which I guess they're just paying off now.
Yeah, it was something it was directly related to Shang-Chi at the time because they were planning on using the Mandarin. Which in this is just, do we remember what is the name that he goes by?
He called himself so many different things.
Yeah, he was called a lot of different things. And he directly references, like, and, he toppled the governments and he named himself after a fruit. Yeah. Which, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I was not expecting, because at the end of that short, I thought they had either killed him or they
dragged him away.
I mean, I thought to kill him.
Oh, well, I think they took him off screen, so it could have been like we couldn't get him for this movie.
Yeah,
so
if they could not get Ben Kingsley for the movie,
but they got Ben Kingsley, and we find him in like the prison of the compound, and he's just slowly gone insane, and I love it. Like, my favorite scene is one of the times where I really laughed was when he's just talking to them, and all of a sudden this little creature with no face, 4 legs, and two and it's just this little chubby, adorable thing, and they just start freaking out. Oh, what is that thing? What? Oh, you can see him. Oh, thank God! I thought I went insane. Come here. He just starts loving on it.
Oh yeah, no, so here's the problem I found. Funny scene, great pull, great reference, way to go. Why is he joining them for the rest of the movie? No, absolutely not. He was the worst part of the rest of the film for me.
He joined them because he was the only one that could understand the creature for some reason.
For some reason? You mean the reason of we want him to be a part of the rest of the film? I think it would have actually been way more appropriate if Shang-Chi and his sister was able to understand him, because they were raised by a mother who grew up in that village. But no, we had to have Ben Kingsley join them because
if you really think about it, spending that much time with a creature like that could have some weird spiritual powers that could eventually connect with him in some way. maybe that's why he understands it.
I mean,
like, that was the gap of logic that I could take. I understand yours, and he really does not add a lot to the rest of the movie except for some jokes.
He genuinely detracted for the rest of the movie.
And Awkwafina was already kind of that comic relief character, so you don't really need the two, but it didn't bother me too much that he joined.
I just genuinely felt like at no point for the rest of the film did I feel like he needed to be there. He doesn't add anything. He just genuinely kind of subtracted for me because, yes, we already had Awkwafina. We already had a cast of characters that I cared about. I did not need Ben Kingsley there to be there. Like, that whole scene where he's talking about Planet of the Apes is kind of funny all on its own, but it is the exact kind of brand of Marvel humor I've actually come to genuinely despise.
No, it's also a product that's made for a large audience, so... And humor is very subjective, so you might not have found it funny, somebody else might have. I don't know, I didn't hear anybody laughing in the theater, but... somebody.
Again, I did find... The worst part is, I would have found that conversation funny in almost anything else, but again, it's just Marvel has done this again and again, where it's going to have, like, by the way, there's this really big important thing going on, but don't worry, we're going to take a couple of moments for characters to talk about random, inane bullshit. Yeah. And that's exactly what that character seemed like he was there for. So, I don't know, I don't hate him. I don't hate the choice to keep him there. I just genuinely felt like, okay, whatever, let me just focus on the rest of the film. And again, I feel like the last third of it was my least favorite part, if not only because I really liked the conflict between Shang-Chi and his father.
Yeah, you had this real human drama going on, and then all of a sudden you have to escalate it to a kaiju fight, which, while visually interesting and admittedly I believe is there to set up for the Eternals, because... I mean, that's the next movie that's coming out, and now you have these, like, mystical objects that might be tied to these eternal creatures, so...
Yeah. I mean...
You gotta build that MCU, brother!
I really do. So, while I didn't necessarily want or appreciate altogether the concept of the kaiju battle, there at least were parts of it that were particularly cool. Like, that fucking great dragon...
Looked cool.
Yeah. The bad guy dragon was a little over-designed, if I'm gonna be honest with you. Just a little over-designed. Like,
yeah, it was meant to look like kind of an aberration, sort of.
Yeah, Eldritchian fucking horror dragon, dude. Okay, fine, whatever. The actual good guy dragon, like the Great Defender, I loved his design. I fucking dug that shit. Mm-hmm. Like the fucking like white, red colors.
White, cyan, red.
Yeah. And the fact that he's this water dragon who uses this water technique where he goes through the water and then sends up a fucking blast. I'm like, yeah, this dragon's badass.
Can we talk about how there are so many people that just have bending? Like, there are people who are like air bending here. The dragon's clearly water bending. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it's sick shit. And it honestly, it did kind of make me think like, oh man, this is both the Dragon Ball movie and the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie we could have had with competent people making them.
They even reference Dragon Ball near the end. It's like, and he's up there doing this weird Kamehameha thing and just kills the big old evil dragon.
I'm really glad that was almost certainly
I feel like
a fucking improv line on her part. Which, by the way, I did get a laugh out of me when they were like, okay, they brought up the fact that it kind of looks like a Kamehameha.
It really did, because it's just sitting there like...
Yeah, well, when he's doing the whole fucking thing with the rings, I was like, holy shit. Of course, I like where that went, where he actually just throws him on the ground and is like, no, I'm not gonna fucking kill you. This is stupid. And like, I like that. Like, but yeah, it's weird because while that last third part of the movie is like my least
we don't feel like we get much closure with the father.
Yeah,
the father gets kind of like taken out by the new big bad beastie and leaves the rings to his son like willingly, which I guess powers them up because of his heritage or something. I don't know. We'll probably learn more about that later.
I don't think it powers them up necessarily. I just think that Shang-Chi is a more like spiritually centered fighter.
They turn gold when they're on him, so clearly they've gone Super Saiyan.
That probably has something to do with like his personal chi, like something to do with the fact that he is.
Like I said, I'm sure we'll learn more about it as we go because, as Wong says near the end, they didn't even notice these things until he took control of them.
Yeah.
So there's clearly something else going on there.
I do genuinely like love the fact that they're gold on him, and it's such a good look.
It does. It looks really good.
I was really sad though because they're like, by the way, we gave you these new costumes. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for the scene where they show them off. It's really
they're just wearing them.
Yeah, they just show up wearing them.
Also, everybody has red scales except the sister because she looks so much better in cold colors.
they were They were saying like, okay, so do we use the red scales for her, or do we use the silver scales?
And they were
for her?
already perfectly form-fit. They knew exactly who they were making these for.
Oh, they got the measurements on them like as soon as they came in. They're just like, as they're like getting their food, like here's your breakfast, by the way. Don't mind.
Here's dragon armor.
Yeah, don't mind Jing over there. He's just taking your measurements.
It's +5 defense and. You know.
Yeah, no, it's, but yeah, next thing they know, they've got these perfect outfits ready for them.
And Aquafina has already mastered archery out of nowhere. And then she, like, fucking smaugs the evil dragon.
Little leap in logic
Little
there.
leap in logic. I'm okay with it. But it was just like okay, you know, she needed to contribute somewhere.
Yeah, I don't mind it so much. Like, everybody in the cast, except for Ben Kingsley's character, which he's not supposed to, although he also contributes technically by being able to translate for the animal, gets to do something. So everyone gets to participate.
Even Razor Fist, who I thought was going to be like the biggest jobber in that movie. Like, I thought he, like...
I'm sorry.
I think
Razor Fist?
That's what they called him.
I know.
It's what his car says.
I know, I could just not think, I can't help but think of Razor. What was the guy? Something face? Taser face.
He was in a What If episode. Anyway, we'll get to that in a moment here. But Razor Fist, who shows up, really cool fight scene on the bus. Guy's just fucking jacked, massive. But there was a part near the end where I guess they were subverting expectations because he's like, these things aren't a problem, we'll take these things out. And then they come down and they kill the guy I thought was Deathstrike as he's trying to like swipe at him with his sword. And apparently these things can only be hurt by dragon scales.
Yes.
So that was the gimmick there.
They can only be hurt by things that are native to that land.
Yeah, and then they armed them up with dragon scale stuff. And by the way, can we talk about, just for a second, the fact that this assassin organization is insanely laden with non-lethal weapons. They have stun bolas, they have like those hooked saber blades, but they're all like blunt and have like electricity jabbing through them. They have no lethal weapons.
I mean, I think a lot of their weapons are pretty lethal, but yeah, they do have a lot of those like...
When they were fighting Shang-Chi on the, the rafters, they were just like jabbing him with stun sticks.
I do think they were trying to take him alive.
Maybe, but when they show up for battle, they're still using these same blunted weapons and those weird like electric bola shooting crossbows. Nobody had a gun.
It is sort of funny, if they'd showed up with actual guns, they probably would have done more damage.
They would have.
But instead they showed up with a bunch of MCU comic book universe bullshit, which, by the way, I'm gonna be completely honest about. I understand that they sort of explain it that after fucking the initial invasion in New York, like, suddenly there was a lot more
There's a boom of, there was an explosion in, like, weapons tech.
Yeah, and like, generally in this universe, tech has just gone through the roof. But it is sort of weird to see such commonality of these super high-tech weapons on Earth. I kind of feel like when you do that, it sort of makes the heroes a little less interesting.
Maybe, but it's also the fact that like only 2 of their members seem to have lethal weapons. There was the guy that I thought was Deathstrike, who had the kunai, and Razor Fist, who had a sword on his arm.
Yeah.
Those were the only people that were carrying lethal weapons in that fight, and it just like... It kind of amused me, because I'm thinking, like, this is supposed to be, like, this crew of insanely deadly assassins. Okay.
Yeah. But... So, yeah, I feel like it's a good film. For me, it's like a solid 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. The only reason that I would put it so low is that it
drags out and it kind of has, like, a weird third act.
Yeah, its third act is really weird. I just genuinely would have personally appreciated it more if they hadn't done the whole kaiju. Like, I remember I was watching, I'm like, this could have been the finale of the sequel. Like, the fact that it interrupts, again, this really big personal story between him and his father to introduce a lot of this, like, bigger mystical bullshit is kind of weird. I will say, though, I want to go to Talo. I want to go there.
It looks very pretty with like those big dragon, the big like lion dogs and
the
stuff.
Dragon horses. Like, I fucking... Oh, and they had fucking, like, 9-tailed kitsune there. Yeah. Like, these fucking...
Just all of the Asian mythology in one place.
I loved it. I want to go to there. It looks so nice. Like, it's just really cool that they, like, by the way, here's just this beautiful world that you wish that you could be a part of. And I am so happy to see that, because when it comes to my fantasy sci-fi, yes, give me worlds I want to be in.
Yeah. Yeah, Shang-Chi, very strong. Recommend it. A few problems here and there, but Hey.
Yeah, I think, it's a solid 8 for me. It's a solid 8. If I feel like if the pacing had been better and that third act hadn't been so wacky, it probably would have been all the way up in a 9. Just really solid action, really solid characters, like phenomenally solid characters. I was actually very happy to see like this entire cast basically just kind of stands really well up against each other. And yeah, I'm really hoping that we get a sequel with Shang-Chi. And I cannot wait for him to be in a crossover movie, because the moment he shows up, he's gonna get the best fucking action scene in that whole film.
They mentioned very specifically, "You're in the long run now, kid." Like
Yeah.
they say it very bluntly.
It's like, by the way, we're not gonna use the A word, but you're an A word now.
Kinda. They say it a lot in the advertisements.
Yeah.
But hey, what about?
I'm an Avenger, by the way. I just realized. Yeah, I know. He's an Avenger.
But hey, what about? What if?
What if we talked about what if?
It could go a little something like this.
No, you're not doing it right. You need to have that deep voice.
Can I say how much I didn't know I wanted it, but I really like a show with a host, especially an anthology show.
I mean, it does add to it more than it subtracts.
I'm thinking back, like when I was watching it, I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of nice. I'm thinking like of old Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, where you have this host that kind of guides you along these journeys and kind of narrates the parts that you need.
And even sometimes interacts with the story.
Only in one specifically, and for a very particular reason, which I loved. Probably my favorite episode.
Currently, it is my favorite episode. It kind of went back and forth for me for a little bit, but yeah, that is currently my favorite one. But let's start from the first one. I think we should just go through them.
Let's start with like a kind of a general feel, because I know like one of the biggest pluses in this is that it is, for the most part, very well animated, very well put together, and the fact that they got a vast majority of their cast to come back and play their characters is really cool.
Yeah, we're also really lucky that the guy playing Tony Stark is a professional like Robert Downey Jr. impersonator. So
yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
But I think overall the quality of this show, it might be one of the better Marvel things they've put on Disney Plus, and specifically Disney Plus.
It's definitely one of the most interesting.
Just conceptually, because I mean, Falcon and Soldier, we talked about it. It was good. It was all right. WandaVision, great in the beginning, kind of fell apart a little near the end, but still good overall. Loki, probably the strongest of their running series throughout, in my opinion.
Yep.
But then you have this, which I love a good anthology, and this does a good anthology, and using the Watcher as the narrator is just perfect.
I agree. And I also love the fact that they keep teasing Shuma Gorath.
I know!
That is such what a great way to tie these together, is that Shuma Gorath keeps coming back.
It was one thing that I was thinking during Shang-Chi and how they're like introducing the Immortals and how you got Doctor Strange, multiverse madness. I'm like, are we really bringing Shuma Gorath into this?
Actually, he's apparently the villain of Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, like that's what's rumored anyway.
Yeah.
But the only reason I know anything about who Shuma Gorath is because Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah, buddy!
Yeah.
Which he's terribly nerfed there, but yeah.
Incredibly, but you need to put him up against Ryu, so. And Phoenix Wright.
Yes. Actually, I couldn't even remember. Is he an Infinite? I can't remember.
Or, I don't know.
But yeah, Shuma Gorath. So Shuma Gorath is like...
He's just an old one. The great old one.
Yeah, he's an old one. That's kind of what they reference him as, and he shows up in the first episode of What If, and then he shows up in the best episode of What If.
Yeah, part of him does anyway.
Well, yeah, because they keep showing the tentacles.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing the tentacles the first time, and it didn't actually occur to me that was Shuma Gorath. The second time, though, I'm like, wait a second, he's back, and they're talking about an old one? That's absolutely him.
But yeah, we start off with what if Peggy Carter became Captain
Carter.
Yeah, Captain Carter.
Yeah.
So, the premise was, really good. It's like, she stayed in the room with Steve as he was getting the thing, and she noticed the dude that was going to, set off the bullshit. So she jumped into action, which ends up getting Steve injured. So if he's not healthy enough to get in the box, somebody has to get in the box.
Yep.
So, you're not going to waste this shot. And so she does it, and Tony Stark,
Oh,
God,
shit.
what's his name?
Yeah, I'm actually forgetting Tony Stark's
Howard
dad.
Stark.
Howard Stark, yeah.
Howard Stark's like,
Howie.
okay, we're doing this, and like, punches it, and everybody's really pissed off. It's like, I wanted a super soldier. Instead, you gave me a really strong lady.
Yeah. By the way, I love, like Howard Stark's expression when Peggy goes up there. He's all like, oh yeah, fuck, let's do this.
It's like, yep, let's go.
Like
he knows she'll get the job done.
I love Howard Stark in this, by the way. Like, his character is just so much fun.
Yeah. So, she gets the power, and instead of, being treated like the super soldier that, Captain America was, they're just like taking her blood. It's like, God damn it, this better not be a waste of our time. We better be able to make something out of this. As they are like just drawing every ounce of blood they can out of her. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm still somebody that can fight. It's like, bullshit, you're a lady.
Yeah. Which, 1940s, I'll believe it.
Yeah.
That's accurate enough. They're treating her like, you're too weak for the battlefield. You can't do this, you can't do it. And then she goes out there.
I'm surprised we didn't get the USO show version of her.
Yeah, I think they were just kind of like, well, it was the limited amount of time that they had to work with. I'm sure if we had gotten more time, they probably would have entertained that idea. But they were like, nope, she puts on the outfit, she goes out there to prove herself. She kicks tremendous ass, which, by the way,
some of the best animation and actually some real brutal fight scenes in this too.
Yeah, I gotta say, the animation style for this,
I love the motorcycle bit in this episode.
Right? It's a mixture of this 2D and 3D animation. A lot of the effects are actually
the cell shading is what sells it.
Yeah, a lot of the effects are 2D actually, like the fire, the sparks and stuff like that, like the impact lines and shit. A lot of 2D effects work mixed with 3D action sequences.
And this is throughout the series, by the way.
And it looks gorgeous. It's phenomenal. And I think that the fact that they were able to get as much of the cast back as they were is really helping sell a lot of this. Although I do want to say, this isn't a one episode problem. This is every episode problem. Some of these actors were made for screen, and some of them were not made to be behind a mic.
It's a combination of things. They're probably very expensive per hour, and the director for voiceover might not be able to properly convey exactly what they are looking for. And in some cases, I've heard about this, especially in video games. They're a little intimidated to ask for a different take on something for somebody that's been doing this for so long and whose time is at a massive premium.
I've heard that too. You have these big actors who probably actually wouldn't necessarily mind so much, but when you're talking to people whose paychecks are like quadruple yours for like a single job, yeah,
you might be paying this person more per take than you make in a day.
Yeah. And so there's a lot going on there, and it's probably pretty intimidating. It's just, it does prop up just occasionally
every now and
throughout.
again.
Like Mark Ruffalo is a little rough.
Yeah, just a bit. And then you have people like Sam Jackson who've been doing voiceover for years and years who just nail it every time.
He is killing it. He is perfect.
And I don't remember who they got for Skinny Steve Rogers in the first episode, but I do love that he remained a part of the story and in the role that fits him very well. That moral center that like, hey, you should go out there, you should do what feels right because like that's what the world needs. You need to be what the world needs if I can.
I do love that he becomes what a lot of, and I mean this in a good way for Steve. He becomes kind of this traditional love interest character who doesn't get to participate so actively in the
until he gets an Iron Giant suit.
Yeah, that Iron Giant suit, which by the way is sick as fuck.
Sick, but it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. It's like, why didn't Howard Stark make one of these in general? Oh wait, no, I know why. It's because they got the Tesseract early because Peggy Carter is better at the job early on.
Well, to be fair, so there's a good explanation as to why Peggy would have gotten it instead of Steve, because where Steve was following the orders of the military who was interested in using
Peggy
him,
was already going rogue.
Peggy went rogue early because she was basically told, no, fuck you, you're never gonna get this. So she just goes out there and fucking does it, gets the Tesseract, brings it back. Next thing we know, we have fucking Steve in oh god, what they call it, like the...
I can't remember, but it's basically, it looks exactly like Generation 1 Iron Man, but like a little bit bulkier and more industrial.
A little more steampunky.
Yeah.
And that was sick. I liked that. And I like the fact that like she gets to feel like, she's the captain here. She doesn't feel like, secondary to Steve. Steve gets to do his own shit. It's just a really great what if, because it doesn't spend too much time. Like, it can't. It's like 30 minutes.
Yeah, each of these are about like 30 to 45 minutes long.
Yeah, but I really liked it. For a first episode, perfect. This was absolutely what I was looking for.
How'd you feel on the second episode? Second episode, I'm a little mixed on. I really like the heist element.
Which one was the second one?
Second episode is what if T'Challa was taken by Yondu instead.
That one's weird.
Yeah, because I like I like how much better T'Challa is than Peter Quill, because he would be. He's a very smart, well-composed person.
As opposed to the literal just like
child who
running
becomes
away
a man-child, yeah.
Yeah. Whereas Peter Quill was running away from his life and like trying to avoid his responsibilities, T'Challa wants to explore the universe.
Yeah, he wants to make everything better and learn as much as he can.
Yeah, and he learned a lot of these like very responsible,
and he
very
improved
mature
literally
ideas.
everybody in the universe's lives because of it.
There's a controversy about the Thanos thing.
Yeah, because apparently, because Thanos shows up as part of his crew at some point and is like, what's happening here? Apparently he like talked Thanos out of his genocidal mission.
And look,
marriage counseling.
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Look, let me just flat out say, this is Guardians of the Galaxy universe. Here's one of the things to remember about the What If universe is that they're trying desperately to match the tone of each of these films. Guardian of the Galaxy, I'm sorry, it is really funny.
It is more fast and loose.
It is really funny to me that T'Challa just had to sit down and have a long conversation with
The
Thanos
Mad God,
to
the
make
Mad
it,
Titan.
And that's really funny. It's supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be this like, no, he could have actually done it in the proper universe. No, fuck that. Let it just be the joke that it is and run with it.
Well, it's also a matter of like, at what point in time did he get to him? And like, because he clearly talked to him what the hell was the bad guy in Guardians 1 name?
Ronan.
Ronan.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was
pre-Ronan.
clearly like pre-Ronan, pre-him like working with the Black Order, and just so he got to him at a point in time where he wasn't quite as strong as he was. He didn't have the same military force.
Yeah.
So this was more of like a guy down on his luck who's thinking like, what if I just killed half of everyone?
Yeah, I'd like to think that this must have been before he got too far out of hand. And that's like, it's fine.
That's fine.
It
does shit completely all over Peter Quill though.
Well, I mean, look, I don't hate Peter Quill, but Peter Quill's story is generally a story about a loser who slowly becomes a better guy.
Yeah, I love like the first scene you get is that scene where he's going to take the Power Stone, and he gets caught the same way, and he takes off the mask and it's like, oh my God, you're Star-Lord.
It is really funny.
Just the juxtaposition of like, oof, wow.
Yeah. That does kind of set the tone for the rest of it. Also, I won't lie to you, not a huge fan of what they did with oh God, what's her name?
Karen Gilligan's character.
Oh my
right?
God, why can't I remember her name? Gamora's sister.
Dear Lord, yeah.
Galactica?
No.
It's something actually pretty close to that, actually.
Nebula.
Nebula.
There you go.
I was not far off. It's
Not
Nebula.
incredibly far, but
So yeah, what they did with Nebula was a little like, it's just the hair and the attitude is like, okay, so this is what happens.
she also
when
had significantly fewer cybernetics, which what makes sense given the timeline.
which would go to show you just how far like this was back.
Mm-hmm.
Like how far
how far back he met Thanos and
Yeah.
talked him out of his mission.
Yeah, it would have been way earlier than we see. So there's that. But yeah, the whole blonde hair is a little weird. But I will say, as far as the episode itself goes, beyond the whole controversy with Thanos, which I don't think should be that much of a controversy, it's supposed to be funny.
I thought it was a pretty good heist. I liked Howard the Duck's implementation, and
The Collector in this one is very
dude had cum gutters. It was
Yeah, massive cum gutters. Just insane cum gutters.
It felt, this entire episode felt like it would have been a Rick and Morty reference, honestly.
I mean,
just because it was like this overly convoluted heist where they keep going back. Like, it felt like the heist episode in some ways.
I do have to say, I actually really really am sad that the Howard the Duck series that we were supposed to get is no longer a thing. Because just this little bit of Howard the Duck, especially in the style, by the way, where he looks perfect. This style was great for him. I was actually really sad that this is probably the last we're going to see of Howard the Duck for a good long while.
Yeah, that was an episode that I felt kind of middling on, and then we get onto the episode that I loved. Three is Doctor Strange, right?
4 is Doctor Strange, I think.
What was 3?
Number 3 is What If All of Earth's Heroes
That's
Die?
right. I also really liked this one.
This one
because
is-
it told a very good mystery.
Yeah, this one is a little middling for me. If not only because it just kind of feels like we spend so much time.
You spend a lot of time on territory that you've already spent.
Yes, and just watching them die. Also, a really fucking weird scene with Agent Coulson sniffing dead Thor. What the fuck is up with that?
That's one thing that's especially plagues the latest episode is some weird tonal inconsistency.
It's not even just a matter of tonal inconsistency. What the fuck are they doing with Agent Coulson in this? Yes, we get it. He's a fanboy for the Avengers, but like, the whole
what's your
Steve,
password?
Steve, I love Steve.
Steve, I love Steve.
Yeah, stop. Whoever's writing for this is obviously a fanboy for the MCU. Stop doing this with Agent Coulson. It's actually like more dumb than it is funny.
It feels like a Newgrounds parody in some ways, like the way they write some of it.
Yeah, it genuinely like look.
I know it's made more like actually no, it's hard to say exactly what audience this is made for. Cause,
it's obviously made for MCU fans. It has to be.
I mean, it's made for MCU fans, but age demographic.
Oh, obviously PG-13. Like. Some of the stuff in here is pretty brutal.
Yeah, because I was gonna say they touch on some very dark themes, but I love that when all the Avengers they do sprinkle the clues in the background as to
I was
who
able
the
to actually
bad guy could be.
I actually put it together that it was absolutely Hank Pym. If only
spoilers, man.
I mean, is it Hank Pym?
Yeah.
Okay, Hank Pym. Okay, I just know Pym. That's the thing that always comes back to my mind, so I always kind of blank on the name. I knew it was him very early on because I was like, okay, they have to tie it back to somebody who actually exists, and there's only one person that could have done this, because if they weren't able to tell who killed them, it's like, okay, it had to be somebody who could get into their bodies and kill them and then leave.
I figured it out when it happened to Barton. Like, after he passed, I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, Barton's is the most obvious of them.
Yeah, and, but it was still like a really good mystery where they did kind of like sprinkle in clues here and there. Like you see the fact that like on the list of people, Dawn, or Hope is dead. And so, well, shit. Okay. So as you move forward, and then you get this real interesting interaction as all of Asgard comes to Earth seeking Thor, who is dead. And Loki's like, wait, I didn't do that. Oh shit, they killed my brother. Those
Yeah.
Well, there's a realm I can conquer now for free.
Yeah, that's pretty fucky.
I wonder if that led to a variant situation for the show Loki.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah, what if that?
yeah, it's a whole other can of worms. That episode is it just spends a lot of time on stuff that's not it's a fascinating mystery, but I feel like it's all kind of leading up to the point where we figure out what happened.
I loved the ending where Loki and Nick Fury kind of work together and just fuck with Hank Pym.
Yeah. No,
I thought that was great.
That was phenomenal. That was great. I loved that.
I didn't see that part coming, and then when it started happening, I'm like, oh.
Actually, yes. The way I only caught on what was happening about halfway through, but once I did, I was like, this is good. This is a great way to handle the ending of this. I like that.
And then the very end of the episode was like, well, Loki rules the Earth now.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do?
Yeah.
None of the people that can stop him are alive.
But they do give you that little inkling of hope at the very end where they find Captain America's. And Captain Marvel shows up.
Yeah.
So, and then they become a couple now. But so what was I gonna say? That was a good episode. Generally for me, that's the mid-range of the show.
But the fourth episode
is
my heavy favorite, and the concept of the episode is what if instead of when getting into the car accident, instead of losing his hands, was her name Rachel? Man, I'm awful.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, his love interest is the person that dies, and he goes to study the mystic arts because he's looking for answers in the world. And because of that, he still becomes Doctor Strange because he's still got the photographic memory. He's still just really good at picking up all this stuff. And he eventually fights Dormammu for the same exact reasons.
Yep. And he basically, he the entirety of the movie still plays out.
But he's like obsessing over the time stone, thinking, what if I can bring her back? Just like really dwelling on that, taking himself back in time to relive that night again and again and again in this Groundhog Day nightmare of watching her die. Yeah. And then he starts trying different things to try to save her, and nothing's working until the Ancient One shows up in essentially like a magical program code to be like, hey, so what you're doing is going to cause a paradox that can literally destroy this entire universe.
Yep.
Because you are trying to change a point
a fixed point in time.
Yeah, a fixed point in time where you started studying the mystical arts and then went on to save the world from Dormammu using time. So if you try to change that, you would never do that and everything will be destroyed.
Yep.
So stop it. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
Then he just goes down this insanely dark path after this fight with the Ancient One, where she like blasts the time stone, kind of like destroys it on him. So he goes off to learn evil magic, literally sucking the souls from creatures from other dimensions. You see this like little gnome. You see,
I like how he's like, all right, let's start small, and then literally brings out a gnome, a little fucking lawn gnome.
Because first he brings out the tentacles and they just slap the shit out of him. He's like, okay, you know what? We'll start smaller. And like, because at first he was going to like, hey, can I have some of your power? Just a cup of power, please. Asking.
Yeah, and then these tentacles were like, shut up.
Tentacles were like, no. Just slapped him out of the way, so he de-summoned them. And then he's like, you know what? If they aren't going to give it to me, I'll just take it.
Yeah.
So he starts summoning small creatures at first, like gnomes. Then he starts summoning like weird dragon wolves. Then he summons like big beasts, dragons, and he's all of this like all becoming like more and more demonic and evil looking as he's doing it. Really cool seeing how they're like taking I do really appreciate how this series will take the twist and do things with characters that are like so beyond the pale.
It was Christine.
God,
okay. I felt so bad that I could not remember her name, even though the name is said 1 billion times.
A lot in that episode.
Yeah, I was more focused on the plot.
But my favorite part of the episode is when he's like starting to draw more and more power. You hear the Watcher start to narrate, I could probably reach out. I could probably tell him he's on the wrong path, but I shouldn't.
Would he even listen to me?
But would he even listen? And he looks around. Hello? Somebody there? Like, as he is gaining more power, he is able to comprehend the Watcher. Yeah. Like, he's getting his spectrum of the universe is growing, which I thought was such a cool way to play with the narrative.
The descent of Doctor Strange into Doctor Strange Supreme is really fucking sick.
Yeah, and so finally he pulls back out the tentacles and like, yeah, you know what? Cuts them off, so, like de-summons the portal and just absorbs them into himself, and he's just this godlike entity. And we're given the reveal at that point that when the Ancient One destroyed the Time Stone, she actually branched the timeline and created another Doctor Strange, who was at this point the only hope to stop the end of reality. And so that Doctor Strange, working with a Wong who's disappearing, is like, you know what? I'm really not sure what's going on. I guess you did decide to try to save her, huh? He's like, yeah, but I think I should stop myself if only to save you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so he goes to fight Doctor Strange Supreme.
But Doctor Strange Supreme has been training for centuries to become way stronger.
Yeah.
And ultimately wins.
Yeah.
Which was the real shocker here, is that the evil Doctor Strange wins. He brings back Christine, and then the world starts being destroyed, and she looks at him, panics, just like, what the heck? What's going on? And her last words are, what did you do?
I know, right?
Just so powerful. And as he's trying to like hold the universe at bay, which is literally like being disintegrated around him, he looks up, he sees the Watcher, and he's like, you can stop this, please. I can't actually. All I can do is watch, and I cannot interfere. As the universe slowly crumbles around him and he just gets trapped in this little tiny speck of reality with nothing else.
Yep.
And damn, was that a strong ending.
Yeah, that is, so for me, a lot of the what ifs have had like Some of them have had more hopeful endings. Some of them have been neutral endings.
I loved this dark ending.
Yeah, this was the bad end. Like, just flat out, bad end. Sorry, Doctor Strange. You should have listened.
Easily my favorite episode, and my description does not do it any justice if you haven't seen it.
Now, here's the rough part. Best episode, then
That's
the
worst
episode.
Zombies, the one that just came out today. Spoilers for this episode, but it is.
If you haven't seen
oh
this
my
one,
God.
if you haven't seen this one, you probably tune out because we've already talked about the other ones, and we're probably going to be talking about this till the end. So
This is not a great one.
Who the fuck thought it was a good idea? First of all, okay, I understand why they did zombies in the first place. Because
Marvel Zombies was a very popular comic. I read the first 4, and they're actually kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. In terms of a what-if story, this is literally the only way this story was ever going to happen with the MCU in particular.
In this, for this season.
Yes.
Like, because how Marvel Zombies happens in general is how most bad things happen in the Marvel universe, where Reed Richards just kind of does something because he wants to, and he fucks everything up.
Yeah. And I haven't read much of the comic. I've only ever seen people talk about it. It's always been mixed when people talk about the comic itself, because a lot of people are like, hey, so this just kind of feels like a lot of edgy bullshit, kind of basically barely, like, connected by an underarching story. But other people are like, but it has so many interesting things to say.
The weirdest part is that the zombies themselves kind of become the main character after they give up on trying to focus on any survivors. Because the concept of Marvel Zombies, the comic, is after they have fed, they are sentient for a while. Like, they remember who they were. And it always ends, and like, they always make fun of Peter Parker because he always ends up just crying. It's like, why do you even eat if you're just gonna do this? Because I can't stop. But it gets nuts in the comics. Like, they eventually eat Galactus, and then they have like cosmic powers where they can like zoom around the universe.
And it goes wild.
It's weird.
And I believe Peter Parker is actually the one that saves the day at the end.
Yeah, I haven't read all of them.
Yeah. Anyway, point being,
this one was not a very good episode.
Okay, so I have no problem necessarily with something that is tonally consistent,
which this was not.
No, this is such a weird fucking episode because it refuses to actually commit to one or the other.
It will not pick a lane.
No, because it's like a mixture of The Walking Dead and Treehouse of Horror.
It's not even that. It's like a mixture of The Walking Dead and whose line is it anyway?
Yeah, because like...
Peter Parker throughout this thing is like trying to be like all jokey, and you have like some of the more jokey characters from like one of the more jokey characters from Ant-Man that survived and is in this posse.
Yeah.
And everybody's like cracking a joke every now and again.
And they did it because they were worried that if they committed 100% to this being what it is, the end of the actual goddamn world where everyone you know and love not only has died, but has been turned into a reanimated violent corpse.
With superpowers in some cases.
Some of them with superpowers. It would be too dark and too depressing.
After that episode with Doctor Strange, though, is the weird thing. It's like, that was some of the darkest shit.
Yeah, and that's why, as I was saying, these shorts, these episodes have tried to fit into the universe of where they're supposedly set. The first one, Captain Carter, definitely feels like it was straight out of the Captain America movie with some more jokes. Like, it's a little bit quippier. And then you had Guardians of the Galaxy, a joke where Thanos is won over by fucking T'Challa. Then you had one that was like the Avengers universe.
But with like a murder mystery noir.
Yeah. And then what lane is it supposed to pick here, where it kind of feels like it's pulling from these different things.
Like, almost everybody here, except for like Bucky and Hope, are comedic side characters.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, there's just some, like, oh my god, I'm covered in Sharon. Motherfucker, your friend just died. And you're the one who had to blow up her, like, reanimated corpse. And that's your fucking... And then
when Peter's, like, you get this, like, weird... The moment I knew this episode was going to be bad for me was when we saw Peter Parker's little Zombieland survival guide YouTube video. And I was like, oh, fuck. No, this is... They have chosen poorly.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, look, I get it. he is trying to keep up his spirits and everything. He's trying to be like, I have to be.
Although when he's talking about people that he lost, Uncle Ben, his parents, he lists somebody else, and then after the fact he lists Aunt May, even though she clearly died in the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Also, Ned's probably dead somewhere.
Yeah, no, it's really fucking strange. Like, legit, the total inconsistency of this killed any possible chance the episode could have actually been good.
Especially near the end where Scott Lang shows up and just will not shut the fuck up.
Okay, Scott Lang in this entire
At least his
thing,
jokes were kind of funny, but...
His jokes, if he had been the only guy there making jokes, his character would have actually worked, but we're supposed to take it as, oh, he's the guy who's completely out of place here. No, everyone's been making jokes. Everyone has been making jokes.
And he makes jokes nonstop, no matter what. Even after he sees that Hope is a giant fucking zombie, he's like...
And let me put it to you this way. If they didn't ask you to take any of this seriously, then okay, I might have been able to be okay with this. But there are several times throughout this episode where they want you to actually feel something, and no, you don't get it both ways. You can't treat all these characters as a joke, and their feelings as a joke, and their responses as a joke, and their deaths as a joke, and also ask us to give a shit.
They also bury the lead insanely by killing off the Avengers one by one as they show up immediately.
Yeah, and like, I'm not, like, I've seen some people who are mad. I'm not mad, I'm just like...
I'm very disappointed, like, because...
Yeah, it's a little bit disappointing.
If they just chose a lane, like, okay, treat it like it's a ha-ha funny, or even, like, do what the comics did and focus on the zombies themselves, maybe. Like, there were a lot of different ways you could have done this better, and it...
And they tried to play both sides, and they tried to catch two rabbits and ended up fucking themselves.
They tried to catch two rabbits and ended up fucking a stump.
Yep, that's it. That's precisely it. And it's like I said, like, either you choose a fucking lane, either go totally jokey or go serious with a joke character.
How many What If episodes are there in this lineup? Do we know?
Actually,
is it just the 5, or are we getting multiple more?
Oh, no,
Because if we're getting more, I was almost thinking like maybe they could have held off and made this kind of a Halloween episode, but
that would have actually been pretty good. Also, oh man, not to get too dated, but Chadwick Boseman's passing and this particular episode make it extra kind of like oof. Just a little. I mean, there's nothing they could have done about that, obviously.
Yeah,
it's not like
they got him recorded. They got him recorded a long time ago. He's a really good voice actor too. He nailed the scenes he was in.
I was actually really surprised just how well he took to voice acting, especially when he's putting on this character. Really, really nails it. But yeah, it's a little bit weird that this may be the last thing that he was in. And it's a little rough.
Yeah.
But yeah, hold on. I'm actually seeing how many episodes it is because I'm actually really curious.
I hope they don't end on this.
Oh, I don't think this is the final episode, although yeah, I won't lie to you.
If they ended on this, like, man, way to... I mean, I understand why you don't start with it.
Yeah,
but
I mean, starting with this one would have, like, I think a lot of people may not have watched further episodes if that had been the case.
Yeah, this was by far, to me, the weakest episode.
Okay, there's at least another episode after this, and it is actually really difficult for me to find how many episodes there's going to be, which is sort of frustrating.
Maybe might just be 6. I mean, that does seem like a kind of like a half-season order kind of thing.
I keep saying 9 and 10.
9 and 10 is what
10.
Tyler says.
That sounds about right. That's what I thought I'd heard.
So they actually could have held this off and put it out in October.
I think it would have actually suited it a little bit better.
A little bit better. But hey, maybe they recognized that it was a weaker episode, so they decided to drop it in the middle.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Just plop it down there in the middle. People will forget about it.
People forget about it after we drop another good one.
Yeah. It's also really cool. I don't know what the next one is.
Either. That's what I like about this. Like, I'm showing up for the anthology. I don't know what exactly we're getting.
I do know we're going to get something with Ultron, which I'm actually very psyched about because Ultron is one of those characters that was
really underutilized.
Killed way too fucking soon! God, it still makes me sad that Ultron shows up for one movie, gets to kind of be a really interesting character, and then bye!
There was one interesting thing they did in this last episode that I kind of liked. It was when they made it to the facility with Vision, and he can't contain zombie Wanda, so all he's been doing is keeping her sated by feeding...
He can't revert her.
Yeah, he can't revert her, and he can't contain her. So what he's been doing is basically feeding her bits and pieces of people to keep her sated so that she won't run amok. Like, he's trying to do his best to keep the world safe from zombie Wanda. Unfortunately, it's... Also, he doesn't want to have to fight her because I'm pretty sure she wins canonically, like, regardless.
Yeah.
Even if he can't get eaten. He's doing it in, like, kind of a rough way, but that was actually, like, the first thing they did in that episode. I'm like, you know what? I like this concept because it makes sense. I don't like the fact that we're introducing Scott Lang here as a head, but hey, I understand we needed to introduce somebody as the anti-zombie. So, you know, that was like very close to kind of pushing it into my good graces, and then Scott Lang wouldn't shut the fuck up. He made a joke literally about every death that he saw, and it's like, dude, give it a moment.
And honestly, I kind of want to use like that character as my like, hey, this is my criticism of most Marvel humor.
Yeah.
Like, oh, don't worry, I process trauma through comedy, and it's like, oh, so you're basically like the way that every Marvel writer undermines every serious moment in the MCU. Gotcha.
There was also a moment where I thought they dropped like an F-bomb. It was God damn it, I can't remember the Wakandan lady. I can't remember her name for the life of me. I'm terrible with names of all fictional characters, but she was talking to Scott, and he's like, yeah, it actually makes me kind of sad sometimes. Oh, don't cry too much, you'll fuck up your jar. I thought she said fuck up.
Oh.
I had to go back. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, fog up your jar.
And I turned on the subtitles like, fog up your jar. I'm like, oh.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, I was like, what? I rewound it a couple of times until I turned on the subtitles. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I do love, I was really happy. I'm also really happy they keep bringing her back for like different roles and different things. Like the fact that she keeps showing up in different stuff, I'm like, cool. Because she was one of my favorite characters in the original Black Panther. So I'm really looking forward to her coming back in the next Black Panther, which I still have no idea. Like, I feel really bad for everyone working on that film, and I hope to God that they figure out a way to make that work.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. But it looks like they got a lot of stuff coming. I mean, we got the Eternals coming in what, like 2 months?
I'm looking forward to the Eternals. I like its cast.
If we aren't getting Cyclops, at least we got Golden Cyclops coming up here, who can actually control his I-beams.
That did really kind of like, every time I saw that, I'm like, oh hey, it's not Cyclops. That's cool.
Yeah, so that'll be, because like the Eternals is something that feels like it feels divorced from the Marvel movies.
Both in terms of like the fact that most people have never even heard of the Eternals.
Yeah, it like when I first saw the trailer, if you didn't tell me it was a Marvel movie, I'm like, oh, somebody's ripping off Marvel. It's basically how it looked, but hey, I'm willing to give everything a fair shake. I pray the Alamo is open by then.
I mean, it will be. When is the Eternals drop? November?
Sometime, like it's either October or November.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it personally. That was actually the first thing I've seen from it. Literally the first thing I've seen from it. And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah.
I like the idea of a bunch of like basically demigods who are living on Earth are pulled together to help save it.
But can only fight these extra-dimensional aberrations.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, they have rules to them. All right.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm down for it.
And it makes sense why they weren't involved in all the other things.
In the fucking trailers, like,
yeah, they have to like
hey!
say off, hey, why didn't you help with like Thanos or anything like that? We couldn't. We're not allowed.
Yeah, it's against the rules.
Whose rules? And then they show the guy that everybody thought was Galactus, but is part of their canon, is one of those like old Eternal. He's related to Galactus, if that helps.
I mean, he better be. He looks exactly like him, so if he's not, that's super weird.
I mean, he's related in the sense that Galactus, like that guy, is one of these ancient, eternal, celestial beings.
Yeah,
so.
that's what, and I get that. When I saw it, I did freak out a little bit thinking, oh man, are we getting Galactus? Okay, apparently not, but that's fine.
Yeah, he's a lot like Ego, where they're just like really old and ancient and powerful in ways that are very hard to show on film.
I just cannot wait until we finally get our fucking Fantastic Four movie. God damn it. Which, by the way, it is nice for me to be able to say that I'm excited about some more MCU stuff. Yeah. Because I won't lie.
After Endgame, you feel that burnout.
After Endgame and the second MCU Spider-Man movie, I really kind of like, I hit that burnout. I hit that fucking MCU burnout so hard.
Yeah, but hey, how are you feeling? You guys looking forward to the Eternals? Let us know in the comments below. What was your favorite episode of What If? What kind of What If would you want to be covered? Because, like, there's a lot of potential for that out there.
Yeah.
It's one of the best things about this show. And, of course, what'd you think about Shang-Chi? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been the Talkcast Pod Show, and we'll see you guys next time.